Hey guys, in this video, I'm gonna recap Season 2 of my animated comedy horror show, Evil Technology, created by me and my friend Michael P. As you probably know, I created a video where I recap Season 1 of this show a few days ago. There's a link to that video in the description of this video. If you haven't seen the recap of Season 1, I highly recommend you watch it. Otherwise, there will be many things in this recap that you won't understand. There are also links to all 5 playlists containing all 5 seasons of Evil Technology in the description of this video, as well as links to the music used in this video. Also, like I said in my recap of Season 1, this show's on one of my other YouTube channels titled George Jason. A link to that channel is in the video description. Anyway, without further ado, let's jump into this recap. The first episode begins in Hell, where Satan is in front of his army of corrupteds, giving a little speech. He tells them that they're in trouble because the humans have just begun to invent really advanced technology that might soon be able to wipe out the corrupteds, as it will be more powerful than their technology. He also shows them Kim Jong-un's mutilated body from rotting away in his own piss and shit, and being devoured by insects after being covered in milk and honey. In case you don't know, at the end of Season 1, he was punished via an ancient torture method called scaphism, aka the boats, which was an execution from ancient Persia, where the victim would be forced to lay down in a boat, and would be force-fed milk and honey, and also slathered with it, and insects would be attracted to it and would eat the victim's skin along with the milk and honey. The prisoner wouldn't even be able to escape because a boat of equal size would be nailed on top of the other one, and holes would be carved in the sides so the victim's head and limbs could stick out, which are the parts that would be covered in milk and honey. In case you're wondering why Kim Jong's body is all covered in wounds, that's because of all those insects that devoured his skin that was sweetened with milk and honey. Also, it's probably hard for you guys to notice, but as you can see, there are also a bunch of maggots crawling in and out of those wounds because, long story short, back in the days of this execution, all that milk and honey that the victim would be force-fed would give them terrible diarrhea, and since they would be trapped between the 2 boats, they would have no choice but to take a shit where they were. Over the next several days, that shit would begin to pile up inside the boats, attracting more insects, which would lay eggs in the place where the sun don't shine, since they would be attracted to all that waste. And once the eggs hatched, the maggots inside the victim's ass would slowly eat them from the inside out, while the other insects attracted to the milk and honey would be eating them from the outside in. That's what happened to poor Kim Jong-un. In fact, what makes the slow devouring from insects really terrible is that this execution would be so slow that the average time it would take for the victim to die would be 17 long, agonizing days. In the next scene, Satan and a few corrupteds under his reign are in the jungle, searching for the child with the white shirt and his father. If you haven't seen the video where I recap Season 1, I highly recommend you watch it, otherwise you won't know the story of the child and his father, and won't know why Satan wants to capture the child. Also, this part of the jungle is territory that belongs to Donald Trump, and as you can see, in the beginning of this scene, Satan spots one of Trump's bodyguards hovering in the air thanks to his rocket boots, but Satan quickly manages to blast his head to pieces with his sniper. However, soon after that bodyguard gets taken care of, another bodyguard suddenly creeps up on them. The T on his shirt of course stands for Trump. Then, he suddenly pulls out a red blade and then pierces Satan's face. However, that did pretty much nothing since Satan is a supernatural being. Then, a few moments later, the guard introduces himself by saying he works for a guy named Commander Johnson, and used to work for Trump, and the only reason why he has a Trump uniform on is that he's wearing a leftover uniform. Shortly after that little introduction, Commander Johnson shows up, and as you can see, He's operating a really advanced robot. Johnson starts scolding Satan for trespassing in Trump's territory and tells them that he doesn't care that they're searching for the child and father, and then a little altercation breaks out. Then Commander Johnson sprays poison out of the arm of his robot onto Satan. Then the devil is really taken by surprise when Commander Johnson presses a button inside his robot that causes those little droplets of poison to explode. The devil, of course, dies, but since he's a supernatural spiritual being, just you wait till he comes back to life soon. Then another assistant of Commander Johnson named Jim shows up. As you can see, it's pathetic how clearly out of shape and fat he is. He's trying to say something right now, but he's willing to stuff his mouth with that sandwich as he's talking, so it's hard to understand him. Anyway, what he's saying is that it's so cool to be indulging in that sandwich because in this broken world caused by corruptids, fancy foods like sandwiches are rare, which is ironic since they're very, very common in the modern world. In fact, another thing that's so pathetic is the fact that he also has a huge-ass bottle of orange juice strapped to his belt. And it would be so stupid if he were to chug all that shit down. Anyway, Commander Johnson then tells the corruptids that he should be very careful as he's searching the jungle for the child and father because there's a really dangerous and savage werewolf lurking there. And then he directly tells Jim, "You better stay away from him. He'll rip your lungs out, Jim." Then, overweight Jim says something that makes him look even more pathetic. After freaking out about losing his lungs, he's like, "Oh, why the hell am I panicking so much? I already smoke a lot, so I'm probably gonna die of lung cancer anyway." How pathetic is that, guys, that he also destroys his lungs with cigarettes on top of constantly eating a shitload of junk food. Anyway, guys, in case you don't understand the joke I'm trying to make, in the video where I recap Season 1, the song Werewolves of London is playing as Kim Jong-un is shitting himself while being devoured by insects. Because for some reason, I think that song goes so well with the torture Kim Jong-un was receiving, and one of the lines of that song says, "You better stay away from him, he'll rip your lungs out, Jim." Basically, what I'm doing is making a joke out of a few of the lines of that song. Anyway, guys, in the next scene, as Jim and the corruptids are searching the forest, they suddenly stumble upon the werewolf. Also, I know I've used the word pathetic a lot in this video, but for some reason, I think it's a great word to describe this chubby man who's out of shape, who's now clearly out of breath and sitting on the ground instead of standing, and chugging down a giant-ass jug of cranberry juice after probably finishing that giant-ass jug of OJ. Anyway, it's so pathetic to see this obese guy chugging down this juice right out of the jug. Besides, to get back to the story, I'm just gonna let this chunky man do the rest of the talking for the next minute or so.
That looks so weird. What is a werewolf doing there? Oh, besides, this cranberry juice tastes so good. But anyway, I just saw a glimpse of that wolf. Do you want me to describe him?
Yes!
Okay, well, let me tell you about him. I saw a werewolf with a Chinese menu in his hand, walking through the streets of Soho in the rain. He was looking for a place called Lee Ho Fook's.
What the heck?
Gonna bag a big dish of beef chow mein.
Then, Jim realizes he just made a big mistake by talking about the werewolf behind his back. The wolf takes offense and pounces on him, and like a human, he literally starts scolding him. The creature starts growling things like, "How dare you talk about me behind my back?" while tearing Jim's flesh to pieces. Pretty soon, blood is everywhere, and then the next thing he knows, his lungs have been ripped out by the werewolf. As you can see, his lungs are all black with tar and ashes from all the cigarettes he smoked. Would you just look at those smokers' lungs? However, the wolf then realizes he made a huge mistake when one of the corruptids at Jim's side gets so pissed off at the wolf, and now he's the one getting devoured. This time, though, the corrupted is chowing down on the wolf. Then, another corrupted approaches him and tells him that he thinks he just saw where the child went, and they must follow him right now, as they don't have much time to waste. In the opening scene of the next episode, Baron Trump, the son of Donald Trump, is giving a speech. In case you haven't seen the recap of Season 1, Trump was killed by Satan and his corrupteds, and during the era this show is taking place in, Trump was president until he died. Now that he's dead, his son's the new president. Also, in case you're wondering what this white thing with a little bit of blood on it on Baron's face is, it's a piece of gauze he's wearing since at the end of Season 1. Satan tried to shoot him in the head. However, Baron got kind of lucky, and the devil kind of missed, and the bullet he fired just grazed Baron's cheek. This is why I keep strongly recommending that if you haven't seen the video where I recap Season 1, you should watch it. Otherwise, there will be so many things about this recap of Season 2 that you just won't understand. Anyway, Baron Trump tells the audience that it's the child and father's fault that Donald Trump is dead because, had they not gone missing, the devil and his corrupteds wouldn't have interrogated Trump for the information on the father and son's whereabouts, and tortured Trump and Kim Jong-un to death for seemingly not telling them accurate information. Baron is pretty pissed at the child and father for being responsible for Trump's death, so he orders his people and his fellow soldiers to arrange a search party for them and kill them once they're found. I mean, I find it pretty understandable that Baron is so pissed off because losing your own father is pretty traumatic, especially at the hands of two random people who indirectly played a role in the death of the president. Anyway, Baron then mentions the two people on the stage to the left of him, specifically that black guy in a red shirt and that white guy in a black shirt and blue jeans, sitting in a couple of brown chairs. He tells the crowd that he used to be so frightened of those people who used to kill off Trump's community of people like secretaries in the most gruesome ways, like burning them and hanging them. However, now those two people are in captivity and are as helpless as mice caught in mouse traps. Anyway, Baron then begins questioning them about what specific part of the force the boy and his dad are in, as he knows very well that the two people on stage know their whereabouts. I'm not gonna lie, the way the men on stage word what they tell Baron is pretty interesting. They tell him that the guilty people are camping in the Forest of the Green, near that very cheap Chinese restaurant where the werewolf lies. In other words, the place where the werewolf devoured Jim. You know, Baron is clearly a murderous guy because he's immediately skeptical about what the two men told him, and he angrily calls them rats and threatens to sentence them to the electric chair if he finds out that they're lying. Then, the scene cuts to the child and father camping. I know that in the recap of Season 1, the father gets brutally killed by the devil, but as you can see, the dad got really lucky, and it turns out that he survived all the tortures he was put through, and he somehow found a way to reunite with his son. As you can see, he hasn't fully recovered yet since there is clearly a cast on his arm due to Satan and his corrupteds burning him alive with oil and matches. Yikes! However, a couple vans entitled to Trump suddenly appear out of nowhere. As you can see, Baron Trump has showed up with his soldiers to get his revenge. However, at least before trying to kill them, he explains why he's about to take their lives and tells them the same explanation he told the crowd when he was giving that speech earlier. However, right as he's about to shoot them, the corrupteds and Satan suddenly show up out of the blue. And would you look at that? He's doing the sickest thing, standing on the roof of an airplane hovering overhead with a machine gun in his hand. As you can see, he's aiming right between Baron's eyes. The corrupteds and Baron Trump are of course enemies, so he's about to be assassinated. Baron of course fights for his life and fires his gun at Satan, but unfortunately misses. The father and son realize that with Baron caught up fighting for his life, now is their chance to get away, so they flee while he's distracted. Then, Baron quickly radios for backup, and pretty soon, a bunch of planes are hovering overhead, and a bunch of soldiers are parachuting down from them. Also, this guy in the black hat and black suit is the secret agent, in case you're wondering. However, pretty soon, an all-out Wild West shoot-off breaks out, and it's a bloodbath. In the midst of all the chaos, Baron shouts at the Corrupteds that he's gonna find the man and his son and kill them before they can. But then, as you can see, one of the Corrupteds, specifically the one wearing a red helmet and yellow visor, suddenly uses his special demonic abilities to fire a laser from his hand that strikes the secret agent, melting him alive. Pretty soon, though, most of Baron's soldiers die, so he has no choice but to run for his life. He successfully gets away and reaches the clearing of the forest, where he finds his prey that previously got away. He shouts, "Stop running!" and holds them at gunpoint. However, right before he can shoot them, a few Corrupted suddenly catch up to him and pounce on him. He meets a gruesome end, which I think he deserved, since revenge is never the answer, especially if you're trying to kill someone, which is absurd since it's the most immoral thing to take this dad and son's life since it wasn't even their fault that Baron's father died. All they did was contribute to his death in the most indirect and inadvertent way. However, the man and the young man don't have much time to celebrate their narrow escape from death when the ghosts of Trump and Kim Jong-un, who have somehow managed to escape from hell, show up all of a sudden. And now they're the ones about to kill the boy and his father for indirectly contributing to Trump's son, Baron's death. Well, guys, now it's the other way around! However, before they can get their revenge, a huge-ass Corrupted pops up out of nowhere and starts dragging them back to hell. In the opening scene of episode 3, Baron Trump wakes up in hell, and as you can see, he's about to be hanged. It turns out that when those Corrupteds pounced on him earlier, he somehow managed to survive, but he's of course wounded. However, the devil is about to execute him. When Satan chops up the wooden plank he's laying on with that pink axe, his neck will be hanged from the noose, and he will be finished off. Satan also explains that he's about to execute him because at first, the Corrupteds and Satan were gonna kill the boy and his father, but then Baron tried to steal their bait by trying to kill the two guys instead of the Corrupteds killing them. You know, it's pretty ridiculous that Satan is so greedy that he wants to get back at Baron, just because he interfered with Satan being able to take ownership of the child and father's assassination. However, the execution is suddenly interrupted by several men on horses trotting into the room, and would you look at that? Trump is one of the cowboys. I know you guys are probably confused as to why Trump and a few of his secretaries suddenly turned into cowboys, but keep in mind that this sci-fi horror show is also a comedy show, so it doesn't always have to make sense. Also, my friends Michael P and I wanted to make a Wild West themed episode. Anyway, in case you're wondering why the ghost of Trump came back to life all of a sudden, that's because he flew back inside his mutilated corpse. Anyway, the angry cowboys of course open fire with the goal of saving Trump's precious son. However, Satan miraculously manages to retreat and not gets hit by a single bullet. However, the cowboys have no time to celebrate when an enormous mutant Corrupted suddenly appears out of nowhere and lunges at them and tramples one of them. They open fire again, but the monster is so massive that their bullets are just as useless as pebbles. The creature keeps tearing the secretaries apart, and pretty soon, only 2 men are left, Trump and 1 secretary. Trump quickly retreats, but the other guy isn't so lucky and gets devoured by the monster, just like his poor friends. However, Trump has to retreat on foot cause his horse got devoured, in case you didn't see. As you can see, as he's running through hell, he runs into Kim Jong-un, who's also a cowboy, and he's driving a cattle-drawn carriage. Also, when Kim Jong-un was a ghost, he also flew back inside his corpse and came back to life. Trump, of course, jumps into the carriage, and now they're both retreating together. And would you look at that? Kim Jong-un has nailed one of Trump's advertisements that says, "Inject bleach for COVID" onto his wagon. How funny! The second Trump notices that sign, he of course thanks Kim Jong-un for sponsoring one of his shitty pieces of advice. Anyway, pretty soon, the nasty monster catches up to them, and would you look at that? Now Corrupted is writing that thing. Now this episode is even more Wild West themed. Anyway, Trump then tosses a jar of tear gas into the creature's face, and the glass, of course, shatters all over its face, and a cloud of tear gas explodes from the broken jar. The monster is, of course, stunned for a couple seconds, but then it pounces on the wagon and tramples it, and little fragments of wood fly everywhere. Trump and Kim Jong-un get really lucky and somehow survive, but now they're doomed, as they're now mere inches away from the jaws of the beast. But then, Trump pulls off a clever little trick and points his gun at his head and shouts, "I don't want to live anymore!" Then, the monster goes away thinking the two guys are about to commit suicide. They of course retreat. Then, they escape hell and board a helicopter that they think has come to rescue them, but turns out that the aircraft is controlled by corrupteds. The demonic beings of course swarm Trump and Kim Jong, but then, the YouTuber Dream, who's locked in a cage, starts talking the corrupteds out of killing them. In case you don't know who Dream is, he's a pedo. Ha 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 ha! However, he's also a Minecraft YouTuber who's been accused of faking his manhunts, and when he's talking the corrupteds out of killing them, he says the oddest thing. He tries to convince them that his manhunts aren't fake. I mean, that is ridiculous. He should be trying to save their lives right now, not talking about a stupid video game. However, he then starts begging the corrupteds not to kill them, and tells them that he's a Trump supporter. Wow, that is hilarious! He's a Trump supporter, he's lying that he didn't fake his manhunts, and he's a pedo. In case you didn't know, he decided to do things like sending inappropriate DMs to his underage fans, and he tried to groom them. Then he says another ridiculous thing, which is the fact that the corrupteds are about to kill his favorite politicians reminds him of his friend, Technoblade's death, who was another Minecraft YouTuber. Anyway, here's when things start getting so hilarious. He then starts singing a song he wrote entitled "Until I End Up Dead," which is a tribute to Technoblade.
I've been playing in my head those things I never said, like existential dread, but I'm not staying in my mind. I'm living like you said, it's gonna be alright until I end up dead. Well, what? Dead. Until I end up dead.
To be honest, I think we should put him out of his.
Guys, this is the most pathetic thing. A bloodbath is about to begin, and he's casually singing a silly little song as if nothing is happening. The corrupteds, of course, shout at him to shut up and threaten to kill him, but then all of a sudden, he whips out his gun and puts it up to his head and is about to do it for them. Then, he pulls the trigger, and his lifeless body thuds to the floor, or so they think. A few moments later, he starts joyfully hooting and tells them that he's actually wearing a wig and has a helmet on and a ketchup bottle under the wig. Basically, when he shot himself, it looked like he committed suicide, but the helmet saved him and the ketchup bottle exploded when the bullet sliced through it, so it only looks like he's bleeding from a bullet hole in his head. Anyway, the corrupteds then start dragging the cage that Dream is in away and are of course about to kill him. But then Trump pulls the most hilarious weapon on them, a bleach gun. Telling people to inject bleach into themselves for COVID is one thing, but blasting a crowd of corrupteds with a huge-ass bleach blaster just shows how obsessed with bleach he is. Anyway, he then sprays a tsunami of Clorox into their eyes. They shriek in pain and are of course blinded. However, Trump realizes he made a huge mistake. The only thing that Bleach did was transform one of the Corruptids into a Bleach Corruptid, which is a variant of a Corruptid that's a lot more powerful than a normal Corruptid. Then, Trump's stupidity takes over, and he's like, "Bleach Corruptid, you don't look well. You look like you have COVID, so take some more bleach." The only thing that bleach does is of course make the Corruptid more powerful. Then, the Corruptid squirts bleach into Trump and Kim Jong's eyes, and they shriek in pain as the chemicals burn their eyes and blind them for a few moments. However, luckily, the bleach gun also has a feature where it can shoot COVID viruses, and once Trump blasts the Corruptid with COVID, it howls in agony. Looks like Trump found its weakness. However, they're not out of the woods yet, because as you can see, they've now created a COVID Corruptid. The new monster squirts a tsunami of COVID viruses onto them. Wow, now they're probably gonna be bedridden with severe cases of COVID. Oh shit, I just forgot that they can cure themselves by injecting bleach. Or at least that's what Trump thinks, and that's of course what he does in this scene. Only that this time, he goes crazy and dumps the whole bottle of bleach all over himself and Kim Jong-un. In fact, he also tells Kim Jong-un to drink all the chemicals. Wow, he's so stupid and delusional. Basically, they both start chugging it down. However, even after they chug it down, there's still a lot left, so they splash the rest onto the COVID Corruptid, killing him. However, before they can celebrate the creature's death, they suddenly start feeling the searing pain of the bleach destroying their insides, and they of course start screaming in pain and regret drinking all those chemicals. The next thing they know, they're coughing like crazy and vomiting blood. Then, Trump begins to see flashes of holy light and thinks he and Kim Jong-un are about to die. So he tells them that now they must drink Lysol to stay alive. How stupid! Drinking that would probably be just as bad as bleach! He of course whips out what he thinks is a bottle of Lysol, but when he unscrews the cap, he realizes it's tear gas. The gas fills up their lungs, choking them and destroying those organs. Trump begs Kim Jong to give him CPR, but he's in so much pain that he can't concentrate, so he accidentally bumps his foot into Trump's nuts, and now he's scolding Kim Jong for screwing up his plans to have children soon. Then, a few moments later, they pass out due to the massive amount of chemicals around them. And that's the end of episode 3. In the opening scene of episode 4, the two dictators begin waking up after poisoning themselves with bleach. As you can clearly see, Satan and the Corruptids managed to capture them while they were unconscious, and lock them in this cage. As you can also see, the Corruptids have changed them into prison uniforms and have shoved an apple into Kim Jong-un's mouth, so now he can't speak. Besides, the devil, who's standing beside Kim Jong, starts interrogating him, and hands him a pen and paper and tells him that since he can't talk, he's gonna have to write the things he tells the devil. The first question the devil asks is how Kim Jong tortures innocent North Korean children, and he writes, "I chain kids up who like K-pop." The devil of course scolds him for that monstrous torture he gives children. Next, he asks Trump, "Can you inject bleach into yourself to survive COVID?" Just like his usual stupid and gullible self, he starts cackling like there's no tomorrow, and starts telling him all about how healthy it is to inject bleach. The next question he asks is for Kim Jong, and here's what it is.
But anyway, I have a question about your labor camps. Do you give your kids any free time, or do they just work and aren't able to sleep and then die? Oh, why? You're evil!
Now, the interrogation gets really crazy. A Corruptid joins Satan as he's interrogating these dictators, and whips out a pretty fancy lie detector that electrocutes them every time they lie. You know, the footage of this part of the interrogation is pretty funny, so I'm gonna show it to you guys.
Oh well, you can't fool me because I don't believe that.
Oh, really? You go on. Did you have sex with the porn star?
No! I didn't!
I'm telling you, you did it.
Well, you know what? I don't want to be electrocuted and I still don't really believe this works, so just to test it, I do want to get electrocuted!
Alright, next question. Do you care about the children of USA? Because in the presidential debate you didn't.
Yes, of course, cause number one, I'm gonna build that wall and the children will be safe and I'm the greatest president and I never got shot at that rally.
Why is it not going off?
I shouldn't have told all those lies.
Mr. Trump,
What?
do you really think you can get away?
Please turn it off, please turn it off.
Please, I just have one more question.
What?
Do you think M. Jong is hot?
What? No.
Oh god, this is terrible. It's Jade. This is terrible. I'm leaving. You had enough pain. Let me go.
So, King John, I'm tired of all your crappy answers. If you give me another one, I'm throwing this lava at you. Write down the answer to my question now. Why do you treat your citizens like pawns? That makes me sick. You're violating their rights. Now, take this lava to the face.
Wait, devil, that's the best idea.
Why?
You're melting away the shade fires.
Oh no, now they're gonna escape.
Oh, come on.
Oh, he got away. Let's chase them.
Then, the scene cuts to some chaos in the city. Also, would you look at that billboard? Look how crazy Trump is about this delusional idea. Anyway, as you can see, a little battle between these tanks and corrupteds is occurring. The tanks begin firing, but then the funniest thing happens. These soldiers happen to work for Trump, and once they start firing at the corrupteds, it turns out that these tanks only shoot Big Macs. That's what those brown circles are. Sorry those burgers are so poorly drawn. The soldiers realize that they're doomed and are no match for the corrupteds, so they flee. They make it to this alleyway, but then they get ambushed by a corrupted holding some sort of laser. They of course beg for their lives, but the corrupted burns them to a crisp and kills them with his laser. Then, the scene cuts to the helicopter that Trump and Kim Jong-un are trapped in, and I'm gonna show you the footage of how they managed to escape.
To exit, what's 5 plus 7?
I remember this one. I remember this.
Allotted time for answer expired. What is 5 plus 7?
Hold on.
It's 13, you idiot!
14?
No, idiot! It's 13, not 14! Oh my gosh, say it very quickly, we're at gunpoint!
You idiot. You do not realize that the answer was 12.
Access granted. Well, you just screwed yourself. You said 12. We're getting away.
No, I failed.
Screw you.
I'm a loser.
In case you're wondering how they managed to just walk out of the helicopter without falling to their death, the aircraft had landed and was parked during the time of their escape. Back in the city, they're casually driving one of Trump's vans, but then they have the bad luck of stumbling into the corrupteds. But then Trump whips out his pistol and starts firing at them. Then, all of a sudden, Dream shows up. Looks like he managed to escape that helicopter too. He raises his enchanted netherite sword and slices a few corrupteds to pieces, like a samurai. In case you didn't know, the weapon he's using is from Minecraft, and it's a weapon that's really hard to get your hands on, and is really rare, but very useful for slaughtering in-game monsters. However, you probably didn't notice this, but that corrupted that looked kind of like a police officer was holding a walkie-talkie that was disguised as a normal walkie-talkie, and right before he gets killed, he presses a very special button on that radio that traps Dream in a transparent red rectangle. The cage begins filling up with some sort of poison, and it turns out that he's been trapped in some sort of very technologically advanced gas chamber. As the toxic gas fills the chamber and chokes him, his face turns more and more blue. He starts screaming in pain as the toxic gas fills his eyes, causing a terrible burning sensation. As you can see, they're becoming all swollen, red, and irritated. Then, one of the corrupteds tosses a bomb at the humans, and when it explodes, Trump's van is destroyed, and the 3 humans on screen are gone. Then, the scene cuts to Trump's apartment, where he's laying in bed burnt, but miraculously alive. As he lays there, he complains about how stressful it is to be a politician, and is pissed that tomorrow he has to make a bunch of speeches, which he dreads since he just had a long, crazy day where he almost died. Then, he notices a few packets of silica gel on the bedside table, and reads the labels on them that read, "Do not eat." He's very stressed and angry and is not thinking straight, so the fact that the silica gel packets say that makes him even more pissed off, and he's like, "Silica gel, you can't tell me what to do. I will eat you and defy the stupid crap you're telling me." In the morning, he throws the packets into a bowl and pours milk in just like cereal. Then, he grabs his spoon and starts scooping the silicone cereal into his mouth, and the second he starts chewing on the packets, he begins gagging, as the silica gel quickly absorbs the moisture in his mouth. He forces himself to swallow, and his throat of course gets dried up too. His face begins to turn blue as he chokes and gasps for air, and his eyes turn red. The next thing he knows, he's throwing up all over the table and all over the silicone cereal. In case you're wondering how I came up with this idea, I came up with it after watching a video from the YouTube channel Chubby Emu, titled,
A dad ate 25 packs of silica gel for breakfast. This is what happened to his stomach.
This YouTuber makes videos where he tells stories about very rare and crazy medical cases. The next episode opens in hell, where a sinner who has died and has been sentenced here is pathetically shouting at the devil in a whiny voice. Besides, does this guy look familiar? Well, in case you don't remember, he's the obese and out-of-shape guy named Jim, who is also a smoker, who got his lungs ripped out by that werewolf several episodes ago, particularly in episode 1 of this season. Anyway, as you can see, the devil is triumphantly showing off Jim's lungs that he collected from the werewolf like a trophy, and is like, "Yes, look at my victory! I got your lungs as a new trophy, and you don't even need them anymore, since you're a ghost." Another way the devil mocks him is by nicknaming him Lungless Lou. Basically, his full name is Jim Lou, and as you can tell, the devil has replaced his first name with the word lungless. Anyway, something pretty cute is that those lungs that are blackened from cigarette smoke kind of look like a butterfly. Well, actually, they look more like a ball sack. Ha 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 ha! By the way, something very pathetic is that, as you can see, he's clearly addicted to junk food. I mean, look at him! He's chugging down orange juice straight out of the jug, and as you can see, he's holding a burger in his left hand that he's about to wolf down. Something that makes this even more pathetic is that even when he dies and goes to hell, he can't stop stuffing his face with fast food and junk food. He's such a pig! Anyway, you gotta see this next scene. The devil does something so funny, but funny in a very obscene and grotesque way. He's like, "Oh, lungless Lou, it's so pathetic that you're such a filthy and fat pig, and you're so addicted to smoking that your lungs are all covered in tar and ash from all that cigarette smoke, so I'm gonna teach you a lesson by showing off my trophy even more." The devil hangs up Lungless Lou's lungs above a doorway, and Lungless Lou begins to scream as he witnesses the obscene things Satan has just done. Lungless is like, "Why the hell did you just do that? That's disgusting!" The devil is like, "No, it's not. Your lungs are great decoration for this room, and make this room look so aesthetically pleasing." In the next scene, the devil and a few corruptids are trespassing in one of the bunkers of the humans, aka QZ. In case you don't remember, in the previous recap, which is the recap of Season 1, I tell you that QZ stands for Quarantine Zone, and because of the global pandemic caused by the corruptids, the QZs are where many humans quarantine. This is why I keep highly recommending that if you haven't seen the recap of Season 1, you should watch it. Otherwise, there will be many things in this recap that you will not understand. Anyway, as the corruptids raid this QZ, they steal valuables like that stack of money on that small wooden table. The devil is stealing too, but as you can see, of all the things he can steal, he decides to steal a bottle of Coca-Cola and starts chugging it down. Then, the corrupted stumble upon a decapitated corpse. The suit that corpse is wearing looks very distinct, so they quickly realize that it's the headless corpse of Donald Trump. By the way, as Satan guzzles down that bottle of Coke, the corruptids warn him about how if he doesn't stop drinking the Coke, he might get sugar poisoning, but he doesn't listen to them, cause it tastes so amazing. Anyway, by now, he has drank so much soda that he's now feeling very hyped and thrilled, and tells the corruptids that he's so proud that he didn't have to take a drug to get high, but he's getting high on sugar. Pretty soon, he gets a sugar high, and starts going crazy. I'm gonna show you the footage of his madness.
I'm the king of hell!
And you're gonna be the one who gets shot.
Oh no!
What was that?
Oh no! Crap, we just got... Oh no, they shot my eye. No, no, no! No!
Now, although Satan has just been blown up and killed, since he's a supernatural being and is the leader of hell, he will respawn pretty soon. Anyway, a squad of people inside the QZ hear all the commotion from his sugar high, and now the corruptids are screwed as they've just been caught trespassing in the base of the survivors. As you can see, the corruptids are being confronted by Kim Jong-un, Dream, and do you remember this guy? He's Trump's assistant, Mr. T, from episode 1 of this season, which is the same episode where the corruptids were exploring the jungle in search of the little boy and his father, which is the same episode where Jim got his lungs torn out by the werewolf. Anyway, you guys probably think these people are about to kill these corruptids, but instead, Mr. T starts telling them a story that's important for them to know. I know you guys are probably confused that Mr. T is seemingly betraying the humans by telling the corruptids information, but I'll tell you why later. Anyway, before he starts telling the corruptids his story, he first tells them about a brother he once had named William, and tells them to follow him into this room of the QZ, where William used to hang out. He shows them this chalkboard above this bed. As you can see, a picture of the sun is drawn on it, and Mr. T tells them that it was drawn by William. Then, he tells them that on the news, the reporters have been saying that a very deadly solar flare is bound to happen. He explains that he thinks the strong of the sun is associated with what the news has been talking about. Basically, I created Season 2 of this show in 2024, and 50 entire years ago, back in 1974, when William was in elementary school, something pretty disturbing was happening to him that implied that in 2024, something terrible would happen to planet Earth. Basically, he used to hear a bunch of voices whispering to him that no one else could hear. He would often show up to school frightened because those voices would just whisper to him non-stop and wouldn't shut up no matter what. And he would complain to his teachers that whoever was in his head would tell him horrible things, and he was very scared. His teachers, of course, thought he was insane. One of the most disturbing things about that is that one day, he went missing, and his teacher, of course, went looking for him. And she found him hiding in a small room inside the school, with his fingers soaked in blood. The really disturbing thing about this was that this time, he wasn't only hearing whispers in his head, but the devil was literally inside his head too, and was demanding that he scratch a few messages onto the wooden door with his fingernails, which is why his hands are all bloody. In case you're confused, the same devil that just got a sugar high from all that coke is the same devil inside William's head. Anyway, William is of course writing some warnings about the solar flare with his own blood, and the teacher is really shocked as she witnesses this frightened little boy cutting his own hands just so he can write on the door with blood. Also, Mr. T also tells the corrupteds that he thinks the headless corpse of Trump they discovered has something to do with the solar flare. He thinks whoever killed Trump knew that the world was going to be destroyed by the solar flare soon, and he or she would die, so that person must have had a desire to make the most of their last little bit of time on Earth by doing something crazy, so whoever that was decided to kill a famous politician. But then all of a sudden, the humans and the corrupteds in this room get ambushed by Commander Johnson, who's another character from the very first episode of this season. In case you don't remember, he's the captain of an army of soldiers, and Mr. T and Lungless Lou are his lieutenants, or at least he was before he got killed by that werewolf and ended up going to hell where Satan decided to keep his lungs as a trophy. Anyway, Commander Johnson is standing on that balcony in that completely dark room in the corner, so you can only see his eyes. He basically starts scolding Mr. T for betraying the humans by telling the corrupted secret information. Mr. T tries to explain himself by saying that he didn't mean to betray the humans, and was just trying to warn the corrupteds that pretty soon, the sun will release a massive solar flare that will scorch the entire planet, causing every single living organism to go extinct. He also explains that he wants to not only be on the human side, but also on the corrupted side because although the humans really love porn and don't care that's making the minds of young children very dirty, they should watch porn a lot less because, long story short, scientists have recently discovered that every time you do something on a device, a little bit of electromagnetic radiation is produced. However, doing something explicit like watching porn causes a lot more electromagnetic radiation than usual to be produced, so since so many people are currently watching porn, a shitload of that radiation is being released into the air, and a lot of it is traveling very far out into space and coming into contact with the sun, which is causing really crazy solar storms to happen, which is why a deadly solar flare is on the verge of frying the planet. Therefore, if humans just watched a lot less porn, or even better, stopped watching it altogether, they could maybe prevent the solar flare from happening. However, Commander Johnson isn't buying it, and decides to punish these people for betraying him by using some really advanced technology of his to summon one of his robots, and the mechanical monster slices Kim Jong-un to pieces. Wow, can you believe that these guys have such a murderous commander? It would have been okay for Commander Johnson to punish these traitors, but he kind of went too far by brutally killing one of his own men. In the next episode, the child with the white shirt and his father from the first two episodes of this season are walking through the city. searching for a place to shelter from the solar flare that will fry up the Earth in a few days. The next thing they know, a spaceship is hovering overhead that's so massive that they can't see most of the sky. Also, Satan is standing in front of them, and he explains that since the world is about to end, the spaceship operated by the Corrupteds is here to rescue a few humans that the Corrupteds have chosen to be rescued from the solar flare and take them to another planet. And luckily, the child and father are a couple of the chosen ones. As you can see, there's a beam of light coming out of the bottom of the spaceship that's supposed to suck people in to allow them to enter. But when the child and his dad start walking towards that beam, the devil stands in their way and tells them that the boy's father can't come with him. No adults are allowed to come aboard the spaceship because they're the ones who created things like cars and factories that are polluting the environment and causing global warming, which is slowly destroying the Earth. So if they come to the new planet, they'll just try to recreate what they created on Earth, and they'll destroy the new planet just like what they did to Earth. Another thing they'll try to recreate is porn, which is the exact thing that the Corrupteds are trying to get rid of, especially since it's making the minds of underage children who are exposed to it extremely dirty. However, children are very young and don't have much life experience, so they won't be able to recreate those things. So if children are the only people repopulating the new planet, that would be a great way for humanity to start over fresh and eliminate terrible things like global warming, absurdly powerful people like presidents, especially dictators, the money that causes people to become greedy and leads to some people becoming billionaires who are nothing but greedy dicks, and of course porn. Now you might be wondering why adults aren't allowed to come to the new planet when kids need adults to take care of them. Well, that's cause Corrupteds have the judgment of an adult, so they'll be able to take care of the kids. Anyway, the child is of course very scared about leaving behind his father, so he starts sobbing. They say their final goodbyes, and then the boy walks towards the beam of light, and once he touches it, it causes him to start levitating, and his father watches him as he slowly ascends towards the spacecraft. Pretty soon, he's inside the spacecraft, and it flies away. Then, his dad realizes that he'll never see his precious son ever again, and he's going to die in only a matter of days, so he starts sobbing his ass off. I mean, he's so miserable that he's legit bawling his eyes out. And that's it for this recap. Now I know I didn't recap all 15 episodes of this season, but doing so would make this video really long. However, pretty soon, I'm gonna release a part 3 to these recaps where I explain the rest of the episodes of this season. Anyway guys, peace out.